Good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are. This is Monica Paolini with Senza Fili, and today I'm having a conversation with GL Communications for a report on voice, the new role that voice is taking with the introduction of VoLTE and Wi-Fi calling. The interview today is a two-part interview. The first part is with Robert Bichefsky, Senior Manager at GL Communications. And then I will talk with Jagdish Vadalia, the Senior Manager at GL Communication. Robert, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
So I would like to ask you to start, what is that you do at GL Communications, and what is that GL Communications is doing in this area? You guys have been working on voice and data for a very long time.
Well, GL Communications was founded back in 1986. So back then we were basically a consulting firm for cellular mom and pop shops. And we've advanced into products, or migrated into products, T1E1, VoIP, higher speeds, OC3, OC12, both analysis and emulation. And we're also doing voice quality, data quality, video quality. So a lot of different tests, whether it's analysis within the network or end-to-end testing, carrier grade testing or product grade testing. So it's the whole gambit of voice, data, video.
And, since '86, a lot of things have changed. And specifically, how does it change for voice, the requirements? What is that you were testing? What is that operators are trying to get out of voice services? Can you tell about the evolution of this?
Well, voice, it's always been very important to have quality of voice. Back in the early days with POTS, they were testing voice basically with subjective testing, POTS and radios actually. So there was a group of people in a room, and they basically listened to audio clips and gave a score, 1 to 5 score, which worked okay. But of course, my score may be different than your score. And it was never really fluid. So based on the ITU standards, ITU 800, there was a standard ITU 861. This was back in, I think around 96 or something. And PSQM was formed. This was the first analytical measurement of voice. So it would take both a reference and a degraded. The reference is a clean file going through a network, and a degraded is the recorded file at the other end of the network, and it would analyze between the files and give you a mean opinion score. Basically, back at PSQM, it was a 0 to 100, and then other algorithms such as PAMS, which wasn't really an ITU standard. It was based on ITU 800, but it didn't have a standard. And then PESC, which came out in 2001, which was under ITU 862. And then Polka, which came out just recently in 2011, which is based on ITU 863. They're all using a 1 to 5 scale now. And again, it's using the end-to-end testing, reference to degrade it, and giving you both the score and some other metrics as well. But this was very important because this gave an idea of what was going on in the network and how testing or how the network or how the equipment was providing quality of voice. If there were drop packets, if there was muted voice, somehow clipping, if there was noise, whatever was going on, the algorithm could provide some assurance of how their network fared.
Yeah, and at the same time, it used to be that voice was on a separate channel, so you could test for voice and test for data separately because they were independent. But now the two are together, transmitted on the same channel. So as you test for voice, you want to test for data in the same context as well, isn't it?
Yes. So talking about a mobile network, with 3G and such, as you stated, the voice and the data were on separate channels. And when especially when we got into 4G LTE, if you were on your phone looking at a website, for instance, or looking at a video, and you got a call, your data would drop. Would go back to the circuit switched network for data, and your speed would drop considerably, and you would be able to take your call. And then once the call was over and you dropped the data, you would be able to go back to your higher speed data. So they were separate channels. And with the LTE, you were going at a fast rate. Now with both on the same channel with voice over LTE, you can actually be looking at high speed data while also on an HD call. So it becomes, well, it's better for the providers, the carriers, because it's less infrastructure, easier maintainability. So this is where they really want to go towards.
Mm-hmm. And there is also an increased emphasis in quality of experience. And what that means is that, again, you're sort of going back to the more subjective measurement, but it also means that you have to do an end-to-end testing with to qualify quality of experience. So how is that changing the way you, well, first of all, why do you need end-to-end to qualify quality of experience, and what changes does that entail?
Well, again, end-to-end testing is very important. I mean, that's what has been that's been really the way of providing voice quality for quite some time. So it's the user perception of how the quality is, meaning that you're going to send voice at one end of the call where the user would be talking, and record voice at the other end of the call where the user would be listening. So it's basically using the user's or mimicking the user's mouth and ears. So the end-to-end testing becomes very important, whether it's end-to-end on a two-wire analog, or end-to-end on mobile, or mobile to analog, or VoIP, whatever it is. That's giving the user perception of how voice quality is. Now, another way to do voice quality is to look at the metrics in the middle of the network. So, for instance, on a VoIP network, you can actually capture the RTP stream and look at the metrics of the RTP, and we have a tool that will actually provide an R factor through an E-model analytical tool. So that's another way of providing voice, but it's not the user perception. This is actually within the network. So what a lot of customers want to do is they want to see what the quality is between 2 points.
Right, and so you need to look at many places. And actually, back to end-to-end, it's really a hot topic right now. Everybody talks about end-to-end, but it's not trivial to do that. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about what does it entail, and how do you, at JL Communications, how do you support that?
Okay, so what this entails is setting up a test at both ends of the call, whether the two ends of the call are geographically at the same location, or if they're geographically separated. So GL has tools to either simulate an analog phone, simulate a VoIP user agent, or connect to a device. For instance, we can connect to a mobile phone, either using the four-wire headset, wired headset connection, or Bluetooth. We can be a headset to any device. For instance, a headset on a VoIP call. So we have a lot of different ways to provide the voice into the network and the voice out of the network, record the voice out of the network. Once we have that set up, then we can automate the calling process if it's a mobile phone, or if it's a POTS phone or a SIP phone. So we can automate the calling process, set up or establish a call, and then start sending voice back and forth. Now, one of the main features of the GL solution is the ability to automate everything. So we can script it, we can remote control it, we can control both ends of the call, regardless of where they're located. We can control both ends of the call from the first end, from the near side, to make everything synchronous. It provides a very complete solution, and as well as a portable solution if needed, because we can also provide drive testing. Put the whole thing into a car, drive around an area, and provide voice quality with GPS markings of each test. So, very complete solution.
Now, automation obviously sounds always like a good thing. If you can automate, you can save on resources. But it's really becoming more than a nice to have. It's really becoming a requirement for many operators. Can you talk about why is that changing? Why is automation becoming so important?
Well, automation is important because a few things. First of all, regression testing. So a provider may be upgrading their software, and now they want to go through a whole series of tests again on that new software. Automation does it, one click of the button. You run through the same tests. You know that you're not introducing any differences within the test, so you can now compare the results with the previous test. And automation is very important in a drive test. Obviously, you can't be doing anything while you're driving. It's not safe. And rather than having multiple people in the vehicle, you can have one person in the vehicle start the test, remote start the test actually. And the driver just drives. It doesn't worry about what's going on with the test equipment, and it just runs. Well, all the results are also going back to a central database, which you can look at a later date. And then just for the purpose of running a long-term test, rather than just running a quick and simple test, running a long-term test, the automation provides some stability in that type of environment. Now, the other thing that you can do with the automation is not only run the voice test, but also run the data test at the same time, and run testing from different devices or different networks at the same time. So you can set up your phone using our software called vQuad. So you can set up your phone to call another phone over voice over LTE, run some tests, hang up, and then call a phone that is not over voice over LTE. Same script. Now you're doing tests VoLTE, non-VoLTE, and then repeat that as many times as you want, and then compare the results.
Yeah, and I guess this is an interesting way of, a necessary way to cope with the diversity that we see out there. And one source of diversity, for instance, now is that we have all the IP-based, IMS-based voice services, but they don't always go through LTE. They might go through Wi-Fi, with Wi-Fi calling. How do you help operators manage all of that? Because it is Wi-Fi and LTE. It's a very, very different area interface. How do you deal with that?
Well, with the GL solution, we are network independent, we're device independent. It doesn't matter to us. We're connected to the phone. So whatever phone is available, we connect to that phone. If it's an early phone, a legacy phone, no problems. If it's a phone that hasn't come out yet, it's coming out in 6 months, no problem either. We connect to the phone, and then whatever network is on that phone, we can then perform the test. So right now we're connected for either voice over LTE or circuit switched. We can also connect for voice over Wi-Fi. We can connect through a femtocell, a microcell, doesn't matter to us. We're connected to the phone, and the phone connects to the network. Now, recently, last year, I believe, we upgraded our product, our dual UTA, which is the hardware that connects to the vQuad system. And the dual UTA has several interfaces, such as the Bluetooth interface, or the 2-wire analog, or the 4-wire analog. And the dual UTA supports both narrowband, wideband, and as well as super wideband, which we really haven't gotten into that much. But we recently upgraded so that the Bluetooth now also supports wideband. The Bluetooth used to support narrowband, now it supports wideband. So that helps us with the voice over LTE testing when we're going over a AMR wideband network. And we're just now releasing a newer version of the dual UTA, which will also support wideband on 2-wire analog, which is a lot of the providers are now installing HD 2-wire analog in the home, so we can now test for that as well.
Well, let's start with the second part of the interview with Jagdish Vadalia, Senior Manager at GL. Jagdish, let's talk about VoLTE implementation. Pretty much all the carriers are committed to deploying VoLTE, and yet it has been a slow process. Why is it so?
Yes, so VoLTE, as we know that, is this is regarding implementing the voice over LTE, right? All about that. So LTE has been out for many years, predominantly used for the data applications so far, right? So bringing the voice, which is a important feature of any communication, and integrating that into the network. So that's what all is all about VoLTE. Bringing the voice and keeping that same quality, that's what we have perceived using circuit switch, using 2G and 3G and so forth. Bringing that kind of capability into the LTE, that's the kind of the critical aspect there. What we see is, if you look at it, the LTE coverage, right, it's somewhat spotty, and also the capacity is whether I would say is enough or not to bring the voice into it. That's also kind of the challenging there. Again, also the LTE, the backhaul aspect, whether LTE provides enough backhaul to carry the additional voice and so forth. Again, also whether the handsets, all the handsets out there, are they capable of VoLTE? We see this nowadays, the newer handsets are coming, it has VoLTE capabilities. And handset plays a very big role into also bringing these VoLTE capabilities there. Also, we have seen this as the battery life in handsets, and how does that impact, since the VoLTE has some requirements that does impact the quality or the handset battery life. Again, it's also the roaming capability. If you're going to be roaming in different networks, right, and you want to have this seamless handoff and other capabilities, when you're going in and out of VoLTE or LTE to 2G and 3G, so handoff has to happen seamlessly. that is very important aspect for any communications, and that is challenging in that because so many protocols, so many technologies involved, and the IMS core and other aspect there. Also, the security aspect there, I see there is a concern about people, and also the network service provider on that aspect there. Another thing is this diameter protocols that has been evolved. It's been used heavily into this VoLTE environment, and whether it's so many signalings happening, and everything has to happen over this diameter protocol. So in all those aspects, we do see that's what makes it the VoLTE as a
Yeah, and so basically operators have to rebuild the voice service because it's so completely different from the switched voice. So every element has to be built again. But there is also some advantages. There are new codecs that provides better voice quality. How is that impacting? Is it making the quality better, or what's going on there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the quality was one of the important aspects that once everything getting done and everything working, right, technically speaking, we should be able to see a better quality of service, how we perceive the voice, and it's going to give us a better bandwidth, right? And it allows us to provide a different codecs. There's a wideband codecs, AMR wideband, and this different codecs that's getting evolved there, EVS codecs. It is enhanced voice service codecs, which should be able to give us a CD quality voice, perhaps, okay, on the VoLTE. Once everything taken care of, technical aspects, all the handsets and all the core aspects working reliably, we definitely see there are improvements, and then voice quality would be very, very good end to end. And again, I think it's we have to make sure that end to end, and if there are more multiple operators involved, and when your call is traversing through the different networks, all the network service providers are supposed to provide that kind of the codec capabilities and seamless. There should be no transcoding needs to be happen when you make one end to another end. So the same calls can go through that, or same codec would go through.
Yeah. Now, another important change that happens at the same time of VoLTE is virtualization, and the IMS elements are often among the first one to be virtualized. What impact does it have on voice services?
Yeah, definitely. So the virtualization, as we know that what has to happen is you are trying to bring your product in a virtualized environment. Until now, the products are using a dedicated hardware. Now you're trying to bring your applications, your services into a virtualized environment. So once anything virtualized kind of thing, we have to be careful about whether the performance and of the virtualized environment is sufficient to meet the requirements, whether voice and everything would perhaps go through this virtualized environment, and that could be introduced delay, jitter, and maybe packet loss and so forth. So so many aspects of this virtualizations has to be looked at it.
Mm-hmm. So what is it, Ajal, are you doing specifically on this how are you changing your solutions to accommodate a world where voice is virtualized?
Yeah, so GL is, I would say, it's in a sweet part in a virtualized environment. GL's products always been a software-based product. Okay, so very many of the software elements and network elements, we are using a software-only solution there. So we are, the GL product can fit nicely into that. Give you an example is our LTE analyzer, let's say, okay, our voice or LTE analyzer is again a software-based product, and that can be deployed into this virtualized environment and can perfectly fit into this topology that's going towards. We can monitor intercommunications between MME and different part of this enhanced core there, and still monitor and then give debug and diagnostic capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so so it's ready. You're ready to go. You don't have to wait for. It's sort of already part of your solution to support either virtualized or non-virtualized voice services.
That is correct, right? Yes. So as I say, GL has well, most of our products are software-only products, so that fits perfectly into this environment.
So what is that you're working on next? What are the next big, well, challenges or targets that you have to move ahead with voice?
Yeah, sure. So the voice is, if you look at, and then the service provider looking at voice as a service, right? And they are coming up with different capabilities into the products in the voice. The codec being the one, namely, they want to improve the quality. Everybody want to have high fidelity voice and better quality kind of thing there. And also the platform is changing. They're implementing speech recognition capability right in the platform, right? So definitely GL has tools to test out their IVR, and we can do end-to-end testing. We can be doing a network elements. We can replace any network element and can help test the capabilities there. So we do, GL's been, I would say, expert in a voice arena since last 30 years, since we have our product in voice-based, and many expertise been developed in that area.
Okay, Jagdish, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Okay, thank you.
So this was a conversation that was part of a report on voice, on VoLTE and Wi-Fi calling, and how it's changing the role of voice. It's a report from Sensafili that is published in collaboration with RCR Wireless News. And today I was talking to Robert Bichefsky and Jagdish Vadalia at GL. Thank you all for listening.